Triangles are found all over the world, including pizza slices, the beloved Dorito chip, and the Bermuda Triangle. However, none are quite as dangerous as the Nevada Triangle. Hey Wanderers! Welcome back to another Foolish Wanderers podcast, the podcast about anything and everything. Today, we're going to be diving into the mysterious Nevada Triangle. Dun, dun, dun.
It's so mysterious that I have never heard of it.
I know. So apparently around the world there's a lot of different triangles. I'm not sure how many. So I might do like other parts to this kind of series.
Okay, but by triangles you mean like mysterious happenings within 3 points, like 3 major
Yes.
points? Okay,
Yep.
You're not just talking about like
Sorry,
a
no.
geometrical triangle, right?
Well, I mean that too, but yeah, so
Mhm.
like geographical triangles, yeah. So it's
Okay.
like when we're talking about like geographical mysterious triangles, it's like 3 cities or 3 countries or whatever, 3 points basically on a map that have in the center a huge compilation of like mysterious like happenings or disappearances or cryptid sightings, stuff like that. So a lot of this happens focused in the center of these triangles.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I have heard of the Bermuda Triangle, which I think everyone probably has in some
Most
way or
likely, yeah.
yeah, most likely, but not the Nevada Triangle. So I am intrigued.
I didn't either until I came across a TikTok, which is where I get a lot of my inspiration for the podcast now. So we'll kind of get into it, but it's more dangerous than the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm.
Okay, so for comparison, the Bermuda Triangle is a section of the North Atlantic Ocean off North America, in which more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes have disappeared mysteriously. So that's a lot, but it's not as much as like I guess I thought disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, because it's like everyone's like, oh, this is such a scary place, but with all like the hundreds of planes and ships that go through there every year,
Daily.
yeah, like daily too,
Mhm.
it's kind of a small number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Bermuda Triangle consists of roughly 3 points. These 3 points: Bermuda, Miami, Florida, and San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Ooh, okay.
So now for the Nevada Triangle. The Nevada Triangle in the US is made roughly of these 3 points: Reno, Nevada, Fresno, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. So we're not entirely sure just how many planes have vanished in this triangle. However, it's believed to be more than 2,000 have vanished in the last 60 years.
2,000 planes?
2,000. So, like, compare that
In
to the
the
Bermuda
last 60
Triangle.
years.
Yeah.
Since the early 60s.
Yes.
2,000
It's
Oh
before the
my
60s, but yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, the first one we'll talk about is, like, from, like, the 40s.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, this is a lot.
Why is Bermuda Triangle getting all the publicity?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
what the
because
heck?
it's, like, outside of the US and, like, kind of more of, like, a not just a US thing, maybe? I don't know.
I bet it's because, Bermuda, beautiful. Miami, Florida, beautiful. Okay? And then we got the Nevada Triangle, Reno, Nevada, easily forgettable. Fresno.
Reno.
I don't know much about what happens in Fresno, but
I don't either.
forgettable. And then Las Vegas is kind of, like cringe. It's called
Party
Sin
city.
City. Yeah, Sin City for yep. So
Yeah, it's
like,
party city, overcrowded.
mhm,
A lot of stuff happens there. Yeah.
yep. So yeah. So it's like it's not as appealing as ooh, we're going on a luxury vacation in the middle of like the Caribbean or
Yeah, it's not like you're on a ship and all of a sudden.
island getaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Instead,
So
it's like Reno, Nevada getaway. Woo!
yeah. So before we talk about some of the more known disappearances, we should probably talk about why the Nevada Triangle is so dangerous. So the first reason why it's so dangerous is because it covers a huge amount of land. It's 25,000 square acres, and a lot of this covers like the mountain range, the Sierra Nevada mountain range. So that's a big part of this triangle. So, like I mentioned before, the 3 points of the triangle are Fresno, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Reno, Nevada. It's speckled by the high peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. So also included are Yosemite, Kings Canyon, and Sequoia National Parks. And then you also got Death Valley and Devil's Hole, and along the side, tucked along the edge of the triangle, is a super secret government facility known as Area 51, which adds a lot to the mystery, and like people are like, "Ooh, this is why everyone disappears there." We'll kind of get into more explanations of like reasonable explanations, but first let's talk
What
about Area
what's
51.
Devil's Hole?
Devil's Hole. Let me. So it's like a. I believe it's on the edge of Death Valley. Let me Google quick.
Because yeah, all those things are kind of, I guess, sketchy, but, like, the Sequoia
Hmm.
National Park isn't sketchy to me.
No, that
I
one's
think
not. No.
of I think of this with the Sequoia National Park, I always think of Star Wars because that's where they filmed the
Oh, sure.
Ewoks in
Hmm.
there,
Yeah.
and then the Sierra Nevada mountain range is kinda sketchy because that makes me think of the Donner Party, because that was the
Oh,
mountain range
sure.
that they tried to go through, and
Yeah.
they ended up eating each other.
Yeah, that's not a great history story. But yeah,
No.
don't look it up unless you want to be traumatized.
Woo,
Fair
yep.
warning. Um, so Devil's Hole is a detached unit of Death Valley. It's apparently is habitat for the only naturally occurring population of endangered Devil's Hole pupfish.
A fish lives there?
It's a fish. Yeah, it's a fish.
Well, this isn't mysterious.
It's a critically endangered species, only found in Devil's Hole.
So the Devil's Hole is filled with fish.
I guess so.
Okay.
So basically, Ash is like this little puddle where this fish is only found in this one spot. So it's critically
That's the
endangered.
mystery. Okay.
Yeah, so that's Devil's Hole.
It's not as, satanic as I thought it was going to be,
No, it's just like a
considering the
hole in the ground.
name.
Yeah. Oh
There's a
yeah.
hole in the ground filled with a fish that only
Yep.
likes to live in that one area. Okay.
Pretty much. Yep.
All right. Move on to something more mysterious, hopefully.
All right. Yes. So now we're gonna talk about Area 51. So just in case there's some people that don't know what Area 51 is, because I don't know, is that really known besides the people in the U.S.?
I don't know. I
Okay.
made movies,
Yeah.
pop culture, maybe you sort of know about it, have heard about it, but don't really know the details. So
Yeah. And like like even people that live in the US, like we don't know what it's for. It's so heavily
it's
guarded.
empty.
Is it?
They moved it all.
Are you sure?
No, but that's what I was told.
Okay. So according to the US Air Force, the site has been used since 1955 to develop and test weapons and experimental aircraft. There's also rumors that the remains of the infamous Roswell crash, which is a UFO crash,
The most
supposedly.
famous one.
Yes, yep. Those remains are allegedly stored at the facility. And this has sparked decades long rumors that its real purpose is for studying and communicating with extraterrestrials. So security around around Area 51 is extremely tight, and if you even attempt to go visit the area, you won't be greeted by aliens, but you will be greeted by locked and loaded guards, basically ready to take out anyone that gets too close. So if you like drive by, they'll warn you, but you got to turn around immediately, otherwise you could get shot at, basically.
Great.
Yeah. Some speculate that the real reason why so many civilian aircrafts have disappeared in this area is that the government basically took them down because it got too close.
Like, that's not far-fetched to me
No,
at all.
not yeah, not really. So some people find that kind of like, well, it's just a conspiracy, but it's
Nah. We're doing airstrikes with drones in Somalia right now, so, like, it's not that far-fetched.
yeah. So, and actually, it's been proven that the disappearances in this Nevada Triangle started around the same time the facility opened. So there's some,
They're shooting
it's,
them down.
I think that's one of the main things, yeah. And so, like, there is disappearances in this area before it opened, but I think after it opened, there's been a lot more.
Doubled, yeah.
So it
I
makes
probably
sense.
So are a lot of these planes that disappear, are they, like, private planes? Or, like, somebody's hobby? Like, they're like, "Oh, I have my pilot's license, and I'm gonna take up this."
Yeah, there's been like a mix of all of them. I think most
Okay.
of them have been mostly just like people have like an aviation,
Mhm.
recreational
Yeah.
license or fly for fun.
So
Because it is a pretty area, going through
Yep.
the mountains and stuff. But yeah, I think there has been some commercial planes or like passenger planes that have gone down.
Okay.
We'll get to a bunch of those too.
Alright. So is it far-fetched to think like, oh, somebody that has their, recreational aviation, whatever license goes
Hmm.
up and they're like, "Ooh, hoo, hoo," flying around, and then they don't listen to the warnings coming from their
Yeah,
radar or whatever over the radio, and then bam, shut down.
yeah. I think that's very plausible. I don't think
Mhm.
that they'll ever admit to that until like a bunch
No.
of proof has been put out there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what year was that? I think it was 2018 or 2019 when apparently it was, a bunch of people were supposed to gather and storm Area 51. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I followed it. I really, really wanted those people to.
Uh-huh. And didn't it get turned into like a big like people put up like food shops and like
Oh, yeah, there
um
were, like it kind of looked like Burning Man a little bit
yeah.
with all these
Like
kiosks with yeah.
yeah, it just became basically like a chill spot because like the guards were
Yep.
kind of just like watching them, but like
Not as many people came like, showed up that were supposed to, and they didn't do anything. I think
yeah.
over, like, 1,000,000 signed to go, like, saying that they were going to go, but
Oh
then
my
I do
goodness.
not remember how many actually showed up, but it was not 1,000,000.
Not enough to actually storm Area 51.
Yeah, because their whole like, the motto, the catchphrase was, "They can't all catch us."
Yeah, one person gets past.
Mhm.
It's but even like if you were to get past the gate's miles away from the actual compound.
Mhm.
So you're like trying it's like barren too. So there's not like mountains to hide in. It's like flat
Open
desert.
area, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you can't hide anywhere. So
They can't but if anyone's
I mean
listening, they can't catch all of you. Katrina and I will not be there, not joining you,
Nope,
but we will
nope.
watch a live stream.
I'll just stay home and watch updates on TikTok.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the first missing aircraft that we're going to be talking about is the B-24 bomber. So this is one of the earliest incidents of planes lost in the Triangle. It dates back to 1943. So this is like
Whoa.
before Area 51.
Yep.
So the bomber took off in December 5th, 1943. It was piloted by Second Lieutenant Willis Turby and co-piloted by Second Lieutenant Robert M. Hester.
And a bomber is huge.
Yeah, it's a pretty big plane because you have to
It's a pretty
carry
big plane.
bombs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
So, so the plane carried four other crew members, and they're just going out for a routine night training mission.
Okay. Ooh, yeah, it's a heavy bomber. That's what
Is it
when I pop yeah, it's called a heavy bomber.
okay?
Oh, but Katrina,
Huh.
the B-24 was called the Flying Coffin.
Why? Ew. I didn't look this
Um,
part up.
let's see. Why was it called the Flying Coffin?
So there's more than one. So I mean, it must not have handled very well because
I wish that Google would bring me to the place that I read it, you know? I gotta accept all these cookies.
you get chocolate chip or you got snickerdoodle.
I wish they gave you a cookie. Oh, okay, here we go. One of the main reasons for this is because of how undurable the B-24 was compared to the B-17 during missions. It is because of these reasons that the B-24 was nicknamed the Flying Coffin. The plane was essentially a death trap in the European theater. This was largely due to the fact that the designers of the plane were rushed. They did not take into account what obstacles the plane would experience during its missions in World War II.
So it's just really bad design.
Yep. And
Oh,
I got that from, let's see, Military History of the Upper Great Lakes,
I mean,
mtu.edu.
okay.
So there you go. Flying
Thank you.
coffin.
Oh, that is kind of sad.
That's kind of sad. Yeah, how would you like to be like drafted into like the Air Force or military? Just let's say just
Just
military during
military, yeah.
during World War II, and they're like, "Okay, you're assigned to this," and then everyone's calling it the flying coffin. You're like,
Oh my
"What?
gosh. Oh, my stomach would drop.
Flying coffin?"
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so this plane it took off from Fresno, California, and was destined to arrive in Bakersfield, California. And then it would go on to Tucson. And then after they go all these cities, it would return back to Fresno. So the next day, because it didn't come back, the next day an extensive search mission began when 9 other B-24 bombers were sent out to find the one missing plane. Which is kind of interesting because they sent all these huge planes to go find this other one, and they're not all like they're all the same plane. They're not very agile and they're called the flying coffin. So they sent all these planes out.
Or the
Isn't
identical planes to find
yeah.
another plane that matches them. Well, I
Isn't it?
guess you would maybe know because if sometimes they have numbers on the sides,
Hmm.
like identifiers, and then they'd have like their radio to communicate back and forth. So
Yeah, but wouldn't they have like smaller planes they could send out where it's
that
like
would probably be more efficient, right?
you'd think so.
With gas and the
Like
weight and
manpower.
yep,
Yeah, and like being able to fly through the
yep.
mountains.
Maybe that's all that they had was flying coffins because
That's
no one
true.
wanted it.
Maybe at the base, yeah, that's
Yep,
all they had.
yep.
Alright, so the search with these 9 other B-24s was unsuccessful. Also brought about another mystery when one of the search bombers went missing. So now they got 2 bombers missing.
2 of them now.
Yep, so the one that they tried to find, and then while in this rescue mission, another one
Oh my
disappeared.
lord.
Yeah. Another B-24 Liberator, that's what it was called, was lost during the search for the Lieutenant Turvey and crew. So the squadron commander, Captain William Darden, lifted off with 8 other B-24s. So this is that rescue mission.
Mhm.
Okay, so early in the morning, December 6th, 1943. Apparently, they experienced high wind turbulence, and Darden lost his hydraulic pressure. He apparently saw what looked like a snow covered clearing, and so he decided to, he said he's going to try crash landing, but he also gave his men the option of bailing out because they had parachutes. So 2 of his men jumped. It was a co pilot and radio operator that they chose to jump. Captain Darden and the other men on his plane were not seen again until 1955. So the 2 that jumped survived, and the rest of them went down with the plane. Yeah, so they only found them in 1955 when Huntington Lake Reservoir was drained for repairs. So they're going to repair the dam and they drained the lake.
Mhm.
So it seems that apparently the clearing that Captain Darden saw was the reservoir's nearly frozen surface. So it wasn't like land, it was ice.
Okay.
And so basically it must have crashed through the ice and it sunk to the bottom. So the B-24 was found resting 190 feet below the reservoir's high water mark, and the 5 other crew members were still at their stations, preserved by cold water and
Ugh.
anaerobic conditions. Wouldn't that be terrifying
Like
going down
mummies.
just like,
Ugh,
oh,
nope.
that's scary.
That's scary.
Yep. So apparently, so the 2 men that did survive said that the captain tried to land in a clearing and ended up being a half frozen lake. And so it took them 12 years to locate the plane, even though like these 2 men that survived said that they saw where it went down. It's still,
Mhm.
they couldn't find it, or they didn't have enough men to go look for it.
Yeah,
So
is that far down in the
yeah,
lake.
yeah, so they couldn't find them. So the original plane, the B-24 that that crashed originally, the one that they were going out to
The
find,
first one,
the
okay.
first one, yes.
Yep.
The father of the co-pilot never gave up the search to try to find his son and the plane.
That's sweet.
I know. So, although the father passed away before they found the remains of the crash, he died in 1959, about 14 years after the first plane crashed. The wreckage was found in July 1960 by United States Geological Survey researchers who were working in the remote section of the High Sierra, so in the mountain range,
Mhm.
west of the LeConte Canyon and Sequoia and Kings Canyon national parks. There they found the plane wreckage in and near an unnamed lake. So they found it. Later, Army investigators revealed that the wreckage was to be that of the missing bomber piloted by Second Lieutenant Willis Turvey and co-piloted by Second Lieutenant Robert M. Hester. And the lake is now known as Hester Lake. So they named it after him. So that was pretty cool.
But they
But
only named it after the one guy.
the one guy, yeah. So it was the guy whose dad tried to find him for so long. So yeah, so it
Oh,
it would make
got
more
it.
sense to name it after the whole like crew that was on
The
there,
whole
but
crew, yep.
as like a
That would have been
memorial,
nicer, yep, but,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so at least they found them, and so they found both planes in that case. All right, so the next plane we got is the Gambler's Special. That was his nickname. It made me laugh when I first read it.
Was that the
So
plane to Vegas, or
kind of, yeah.
okay.
Hawthorne, Nevada Airlines Flight 708, labeled as the Gambler's Flight, headed from Hawthorne to Burbank, California on February 18th, 1969, went missing just 16 minutes into their flight after leaving Hawthorne Airport at 4 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
So that's like
60
disaster.
minutes.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's like
So,
that's like a little bit after takeoff.
oh yeah, yeah, they didn't get very far.
Do you even get to, like, full altitude, like, flying height after 16 minutes of flying? I
I've
really
only
don't know.
I don't know. I've only been on like a couple planes when I was really young, so I don't know how long it takes. I think it
I never have a timer, so
Yeah, no. I think you probably would, depending on like what level you're flying at, but I don't know.
don't know.
Yeah, more Google. So weather on that day was clear, but after takeoff, rain and wind created an overcast sky. It was thought that the pilot took an easterly alternative route to avoid the mountains surrounding Hawthorne, so that way like they wouldn't get like crash into the mountains because they couldn't see them.
Mhm.
This was verified by radio contact with the Tonopah Airport, who stated that the pilot was flying a pattern over Owens Valley in Inyo County, California. So Flight 708 never made it to Burbank, California. It was called in overdue, and then search units were put into place, activated by Mineral County Sheriff's Office, and then the local unit of Civil Air Patrol went out as well, like after them. So 32 passengers were on board the flight that day, as well as 3 airline staff. So it was a pretty small flight, but it was like 4 in the morning, so it makes sense.
4 in the morning flights are the worst.
Kendra just got back up from one, so she
Yep,
knows.
and there was one lady that would not shut up the whole way. And
Yeah.
everybody else on the flight, since it was a full flight, understood that, hey, it's super early in the morning. Everyone is going to sleep, and we are all going to be quiet. But
Hmm.
not this lady.
Yeah, when it's that early in the morning when you're usually supposed to be asleep, you should probably be asleep, or at least like be on your phone or something. Don't like
She was nope,
yell.
it seemed like she had taken 6 espresso and just
Oh my goodness.
so, word to the wise, if you're going to flight at 4 in the morning, shut up and go to sleep.
Yeah, be polite.
Be polite.
Don't be distracting and
Don't be
loud.
just yeah.
Okay. So Fred Hall of San Fernando, California, was the pilot of the plane, and then sitting next to him was Ray Hammer of Long Beach, that's the co-pilot. The pair had flown to and from Hawthorne many times. And then the third staff was the stewardess Pat Nanis of Los Angeles. She was only 21 years old at the time. So it was only those 3 people for staff. So over the next 6 months after this plane was reported missing, they conducted one of the largest air-ground searches in the West, like
Whoa.
ever. Yeah, trying to look for this plane. The search itself would prove to be deadly.
Oh my
So while
goodness.
searching, 5
Again?
aircraft, yes, again. So 5 aircraft that were searching for this plane crashed, and 5 searchers were killed while trying to find the flight.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we got a lot of people on this one. Yeah. So Taylor Elsick, an aviation enthusiast, is among about a dozen who have made the treacherous 9-hour climb to the crash site. So it's not an easy one to get to. Yeah, to
Oh,
be
they're not flying.
well, the original ones, they like had helicopters and stuff trying to go search the ground, and some of those
Okay.
did crash.
Okay.
So this guy Taylor, he walked because it's
He's
proving
a
to be much
hiker?
more dangerous. Yeah, so he's an aviation enthusiast, but I think in order to get to this site to look at it,
You
he
have to
hiked up
hike.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it, alright.
Yep. So when he got to the crash site, he said, quote, "You could still smell petroleum. When I started discovering personal items, there was nickels all over the place up there. I
That's
found
why
him.
it was called the Gambler Special.
Well, there's a lot of gamblers on it too, so yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he said, I found a mascara applicator and opened it up, and the makeup was still wet 42 years later. So I think he took it with him. Took
Oh,
the,
he found it 42 years later at the site.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yep. And then amongst the other, so these are some of the other items he found, was stacked coffee cups, a tube of lipstick, shiny coins that were most likely from a slot machine, and probably the most tragic item was the stewardess's jacket.
Ooh,
Yeah, that would be the most haunting because yeah, and I think with that one, I think he did contact the family, and I believe he gave it back to them.
gave it back to him.
I
That's
think that's
nice
what
of
he
him.
did. Yeah. So yeah, so this one was found, but trying to find it again, more people died trying to find this crash site, which just kind of
Jeez.
proves how dangerous this mountain range is to try to navigate.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, so this next one, this one's kind of sad. This is a
They've all been sad, what do you
well, they've all
mean?
been very sad, but like this one, I don't
Takes
know.
the
It's like
cake?
it's a different sad.
Is the different sad?
It's like a different
Okay,
kind of sad.
okay.
It's like happy then sad.
Oh,
So okay.
my
So
body's prepared.
okay. This is a story of David Arthur Steeves. So on May 9th, 1957, 23-year-old David Arthur Steeves, a U.S. Air Force lieutenant and experimental aircraft test pilot, took off in a solo flight from Hamilton Air Force Base to Craig Air Force Base near Selma, California. So he was just supposed to test this plane, and like he never showed up basically. So the
Oh,
flight
okay.
route took the young pilot over the Sierra Nevada mountains near the rugged backcountry of Kings Canyon National Park. So, a routine flight plan was filed, nothing out of the ordinary, except the young pilot and his top level aircraft disappeared from radar and never landed at the Central Valley Air Force Base. So,
I
he just
never understand how
disappeared.
you disappear from radar.
I think, if I'm correct, I think it's like you have to drop super quickly from altitude. So, I believe like they watch like your
Oh,
altitude. And I think if you just fall quickly, I think that can make you disappear. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's how it
that's
works.
scary. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So then a search and rescue mission was launched, but failed to find any trace of the pilot or the airplane. So even though they found it on radar, they couldn't find it.
Mhm.
So the first Lieutenant Steves, at first he was declared dead, and the death certificate was actually mailed to his family.
Okay.
Yeah. 54 days after his disappearance, a full bearded, battered, and half starved man in an Air Force flight suit aimlessly limped into a hiker's camp. Which in itself, wouldn't that be terrifying? You just
What?
see this bearded guy that's obviously starving, limping into your camp. That's terrifying.
That's terrifying.
Yep. So then
I
he said,
wouldn't go camping again. I would
no.
use that as an excuse. I'm like, "Well, I can't camp. I can't
I
go
can't,
camping."
I can't do it. That'd be traumatizing.
Mhm.
So he gave his name as Lieutenant Steves and told his story of survival.
Oh my god.
So this is his story.
Oh
So
no.
apparently, an explosion in the cockpit had left him unconscious and his jet spiraling out of control. So that's why he disappeared from radar. He's spiraling to the ground,
And he went
basically.
unconscious.
Before that. So something exploded, and then that's why he was unconscious, and then
Okay.
he kind of woke up. So he
Jeez.
slowly regained consciousness and instinctively fought to control the spin. So the aircraft leveled out, but was filling with smoke.
Oh my gosh.
He was forced to eject and deploy his parachute, dropping into the most mountainous backcountry of the Sierra Nevada. It's a great place.
Great, great place. The
It's
one
great.
place in this huge mountain range that you could land. It's the most
Perfect.
mountainous backcountry. Great.
Yep. So he took a hard landing. Both ankles were badly sprained.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah. And he found himself wearing only a lightweight summer flight suit
In the middle of the mountains.
in mountains, which gets
Great.
cold. Yep.
Oh, duh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he had gone 2 weeks without food, wandering, trying to navigate his way out of the mountains.
Oh my gosh. What did you about water?
Maybe he had
The
snow from the
snow.
mountains. I
Probably the
think
snow.
mountain water. Yeah.
That's a dumb question, Kendra. Jesus.
Well, no, I
It's
mean,
covered in snow.
I mean, it could be like it all melted. I don't know, but I think he probably had snow or like a little stream or something.
Mhm.
So about to succeed to his dismal situation. So when he was about basically to die from starvation, he
Ugh.
came across a ranger's cabin. He found cans of ham and beans, fish hooks, and line. So his hope of survival renewed. Basically, he could fish. He had these cans of food.
Cans of ham and beans.
Ham and beans, all you
I
need.
would rather starve.
I'd rather eat the ham and beans.
I don't like either, so I won't do it.
Okay. So he continued his path out of the mountains. Then in May, the high country of the Sierra with elevations well over 11,000 feet is still covered with snow. So he had snow to drink.
Mhm.
Rivers and streams were often a torrent and dangerous to cross.
Great.
After he brought back by the hiker, they brought him back. At first, he was greeted as a hero. So the Saturday Evening Post even offered Steves $10,000 for an exclusive cover story of his ordeal. Air Force superiors, however, took his testimony and laid out a search for his aircraft. Months of searching and reviewing his story came up empty. Not a piece of the wreckage of the top level aircraft was found. So then rumors and suspicion were mounting. How did he survive without food for 2 weeks? Which you'd be getting to basically the point of starvation at that point.
Yeah, death.
Yeah, you'd be very close.
Because water's the most important thing for your body, but you can handle a few weeks without food.
But yeah, but at that point you're getting kind of close.
Mhm.
So, let alone find the strength to continue walking and stumble into a cabin with stores of food, unless he like somehow saved his energy because couldn't move with his sprained ankles. But somehow he made his way to the cabin and found food. So 54 days, and he managed to climb his way to safety with no trace of the crash in sight. So, but if you think about it too, the mountains they're so hard to navigate, so it's kind of impossible to search every place, I guess, like where it could have crashed, right?
Mhm.
Like search it far enough. So I mean, you can kind of see like the holes of like you might not have seen it or whatever.
Yeah, and it's constantly, snow changes,
Hmm.
and there could
Snow,
have been
yeah.
an avalanche that maybe moved the plane, the wreckage down even further.
Hmm.
Like, he probably doesn't even really know where it happened, like,
Yeah, he was like
exactly, duh.
semi unconscious. Yeah,
Yeah.
but his superiors still thought it was very unlikely his story was not true. And then because of these rumors, the magazine pulled out of their offer,
What?
claiming, yeah. So then the magazine pulled out and they're like, there's discrepancies in your story. And yeah, basically everyone just thought he was a liar.
I'm so confused. What does he have to lie about?
Well, here, we'll get into it.
Okay.
So, so a more plausible story, according to the Air Force, was being pieced together. So this is what they thought.
Oh, great. I'm gonna love hearing what they thought.
Oh yeah, so they thought that it was a more traitorous plot. So they thought that he flew the military jet, this top secret military jet, deep into Mexico, so they could hand it over to the Russians. Yeah, this is like isn't this the middle of like
Sorry, this
the
is funny.
isn't
Cold
this like in
War.
the middle of yeah Cold War? So this is like middle of the Cold War. They have a lot of suspicions and they're like because we can't find the plane, even though there's a lot of places it could be hiding.
You obviously went to Mexico, you traitor. You
You
gave it to
flew it.
the Russians.
Yep, exactly. So they said that he traded it to the Russians for payment into a foreign bank account. Then he was flown back over the Sierra Nevada and dropped into the mountains.
Oh, by a Russian plane or by a
Yes.
Mexican plane? Which
some,
was it?
some sort of plane, I don't know.
Oh.
Where food was planted at the Rangers cabin
Oh.
Mhm, along with pre-planned route back to civilization.
Oh,
So then
wow.
where he would stumble out and tell his well-rehearsed story.
Oh, mhm.
So that was their theory, but it's
Their
kind
theory.
of
I don't understand. I think it's so stupid. Duh. Why is it such like a crazy thought to them that that in a ranger's cabin they would have canned food?
that I don't know. I
Because it
think
doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
no, not a ranger's cabin. No, if it was just like a random, like tiny fishing cabin, that would be well. You might
You
see
still
some
have
canned food.
food.
Yeah, I don't know. I think mostly just paranoia because of the Cold War.
I
I
get,
think
yeah.
I think that was mainly
Mhm.
what it was because yeah, they're very quick to be like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah, point fingers.
Yeah, pretty much. So, with the lack of hard evidence, formal charges were never filed. Still, rumors and suspicion would plague his military career until the first lieutenant, Steves, asked his superiors for a full discharge from the Air Force. So basically, the rumors ruined his entire life.
Was it a dishonorable discharge or was it just a discharge?
I think just discharge
Oh,
because
that's
they
good.
couldn't prove anything.
That's
They didn't
good.
have proof.
Dishonorable one would be bad.
Oh, yeah. So then, after he left the Air Force, he got divorced from his wife. His wife divorced him, and he lost custody of his young daughter.
Oh my.
Yeah, and he also lost support of most of his friends, just all because of rumors, which is awful. He managed to find work as a commercial pilot and was involved in designing parachute planes. So, driven by the cloud of conspiracy hanging over his head, he would spend the rest of his life combing the Sierra from a rented plane, hoping that he would find the wreckage of his plane to clear his name because it
Oh my
ruined his life.
god.
Yes, this is why I'm saying this is like
That
happy
is
because
so
he's found,
sad.
and then it's yeah, it's very sad. So in 1965, Steves died in a plane crash, which is kind of ironic. And then 12 years later, a group of Boy Scouts, while backpacking in Kings Canyon, would discover a large piece of cockpit from an Air Force jet in a shallow alpine lake. So it crashed into a lake. The serial number was clearly present and matched Steve's missing Lockheed T-33.
So they found his plane.
They found the plane. So it wasn't handed over to Russians. He was completely innocent. It ruined his life for nothing because it was in a lake.
And a bunch of Boy Scouts found it instead of the
Yeah.
actual Air
The
Force.
military.
Oh, weird.
Like they probably combed over like they probably flew over it and didn't see anything. But when you actually get on the ground, a lot of times you can see more. Even though it's harder to get to,
Mhm.
you can see more. But
Well, it can't be that
yeah.
hard to get to if a bunch of Boy Scouts went there. That's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Well,
So Steve's is innocent and I feel awful that he died.
they better have
People
named a damn lake after him too.
Oh, I hope so. There's something to like, yeah, repair his name. So yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah. So now we get into the last and probably the longest story I have of a disappearance. This is the story of Steve Fawcett. So This is probably the most famous disappearance of the Nevada Triangle. This is the one, like, if you Google, like, disappearances or strange disappearances from this area, he's what
He's
it all
number
comes up.
1?
Oh, yeah, this is, like, in
Okay.
every article. Alright. So, Fawcett was an American businessman and a record setting aviator, sailor, and adventurer. He was born,
Wow.
yeah, he did a lot.
Impressive.
Yeah, he has tons of awards and records. So he's very experienced. And we'll kind of get into some of that. So he was born on April 22nd, 1944 in Jackson, Tennessee. And then when he was young, his family moved to California, and that's basically where he grew up.
Okay.
So Fawcett's interest in adventure began fairly early. He was a Boy Scout and grew up climbing the mountains of California, beginning with the San Jacinto Mountains. When he was 12, Fawcett climbed his first mountain and kept going, taking on more diverse and grander projects. So basically, he just had a thirst for adventure and just constantly was climbing and
One-upping himself. Okay.
basically, yeah, yep. So Fawcett said that he did not have a natural gift for athletics or team sports, so he focused on activities that required persistence and endurance. His father was an Eagle Scout and encouraged Fawcett to pursue these types of adventures and encouraged him to become involved with the Boy Scouts early. Fawcett earned the Boy Scouts' highest rank of Eagle Scout eventually as well. So like later high school, I think is when you get that
Mhm.
to go
I
to Eagle Scout.
think so.
I think that's what it is. So yeah, so like his dad was encouraging him to go explore and all this stuff. So I don't know, he had all of the encouragement he needed to pursue adventure. So in college at Stanford University, Fawcett was already known as an adventurer. His Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity brothers convinced him
Epsilon. I
Epsilon?
think it's Epsilon.
Okay. Epsilon fraternity brothers convinced him to swim to Alcatraz, which had closed 2 years previously. Yeah. So this is a dare. And they said that they wanted him to raise a banner that read, quote, "Beat Cal," Cal,
Mhm.
on the wall of the prison. So he made the swim, but was thwarted by security guards when he arrived. Isn't that like notoriously a super dangerous thing to cross?
Yeah, we could have another podcast episode about Alcatraz escapes, but
Oh yeah, we
not
should.
many people make it
Mm-mm.
back to San Francisco from because the waters are treacherous. There's currents and
Mm-hmm.
ships, and there are sharks, but I don't think any have
Is
ever
there?
attacked anyone. Yeah,
Yeah, so that just kind of, I guess, cements his thirst for
that's
adventure, and
crazy. That's more like
he's crazy.
adrenaline. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
adrenaline junkie.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he made the swim, but was thwarted by security guard when he arrived. So I think he got arrested too. So while at Stanford, Fawcett was a student body officer and served as president of a few clubs. So eventually, he graduated from Stanford with a degree in economics and spent the following summer in Europe climbing mountains and swimming the Dardanelles Strait.
I have no idea what that is.
I think by Turkey, there's a Dardanelles Strait.
I did not do any of those things the summer after college. I worked.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, pay off those student debts.
Mhm.
Yep, it's by Turkey.
I didn't go climbing mountains.
Dardanelles, that's what it's called. So, after earning an MBA in 1968 at the Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, he became a successful commodities broker and in 1980 founded the securities company Lakota Trading. So basically at this point he's had so many jobs. If you look like at his history, he's gone through so many jobs. He moved to Chicago, now he has his own company. He
Jeez.
has money.
Perseverance.
Yes, a lot of that. So,
Persistent.
yes. So, Fawcett undertook a number of challenges, including swimming the English Channel in 1985
Oh
before
my
gaining,
gosh.
yeah, before gaining international attention with his ballooning feats. So he also did hot air ballooning, because why wouldn't he?
What a random thing. Like, hot air balloon.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem that impressive. Like, he's climbing mountains, he's
yeah.
swimming all over the place, and then he's just gonna take up, like, boring hot air ballooning?
Isn't it kind of dangerous, or is it pretty
I
tame?
really don't know. It seems
Okay.
boring to me, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. It doesn't seem that exciting. Like you would think
Yeah,
maybe what is the thing where your tail glide what is it?
tail.
What are those things?
Oh, hang gliding.
Yeah, like hang gliding. You think that would be his hobby, not ballooning, hot air
I
ballooning.
think he did that too. I think he did basically anything he could with adrenaline.
What
There's
kind of
there's a whole
adrenaline
list.
what kind of adrenaline are you getting from a hot air balloon? I don't know.
Well, to me, it's always been scary to look at because you're just in a basket. There's nothing holding you in besides this wicker basket. So to
I
me, you're up so
yeah.
high without like real security, I
I
guess.
see. Yeah, good
To
point.
me, I'd be scared, but who knows? So in 1995, he registered the first record in the sport with a solo trans-Pacific flight. So he had the first solo trans-Pacific flight. The following year, he began his highly publicized effort to become the first person to balloon around the world alone. So, like, all the way around the world. The
In 80
initial.
days?
What? Oh, yeah. I don't know how long it took him, but yeah, that was it the book or a movie first?
The book,
The book.
and
Yeah,
then
that popped in my head first, too. So his initial attempt, however, ended after just 3 days. Because a series of subsequent efforts had also failed. So in 2002, Fawcett made his sixth attempt at the record, taking off from Northam, Western Australia, in the spirit of freedom and drifted eastward. On July 2nd, he made history as he crossed his starting point, eventually landing in the outback of Queensland. So he did it. It just took him like 6 or 7 attempts, but he did it by himself. So, and at this point, he was already kind of an older man at 2002 because he was born in 44. So he's getting up there in age.
like, what? This man is insane. He's just like, what is he gonna do next?
Well, here you go.
Oh,
So
here we go.
here you
Okay.
go. So in 2005, Fawcett became the first person to fly an airplane around the world solo without stopping or refueling, which is dangerous.
Mhm.
So on February 8th, 2006, he undertook the longest nonstop airplane flight, taking off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, aboard the Global Flyer, which is a specialized plane that featured 13 fuel tanks and a 7-foot or 2-meter cockpit. Some 76 hours later, on February 11th, he made an emergency landing in Bournemouth, England, having covered a record of 26,389.3 miles.
Man, I want those frequent flyer miles on my
Could you
Delta app.
imagine? So many free flights.
So many free flights. An
So,
upgrade.
oh yes, at least, yeah. So during his lifetime, Fawcett set some 100 records in sailing and aviation.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now we get to the disappearance. So at 8:45 a.m. on the morning of Monday, September 3rd, 2007, which is Labor Day,
Mhm.
Fawcett took off in a single-engine Champion 8K CAB Super Decathlon light aircraft, which is a mouthful, from the Flying M Ranch private airstrip near Smith Valley, Nevada. When he failed to return, searches were launched about 6 hours later. So it was kind of, I think his wife kind of noticed that he hadn't landed and she was getting worried. I believe she was the one that called him in as missing.
Okay.
So there was no signal from the plane's emergency locator, transmitter, or ELT, which is designed to be automatically activated in the event of a crash. But this plane was an older model that was notorious for failing. Like this, the ELT a
Will
lot of times
fail.
it failed and didn't operate. Which, yeah,
Ugh, why would you take that plane out then?
exactly. I don't know. So it was first thought that Fawcett may have also been wearing a Breitling emergency watch, which with a manually operated ELT that had a range up to 90 miles, but no signal was received from it. So then on September 13th, Fawcett's wife Peggy issued a statement clarifying that he did own one of these watches, but was not wearing it when he left.
Well, again, why did he not wear it?
I don't know. Who knows? So Fawcett took off with enough fuel for 4 to 5 hours of flight.
Mhm.
So according to the spokesperson, Major Cynthia S. Ryan, Public Information Officer with the Civil Air Patrol, or CAP, searchers with CAP were told that Fawcett had gone out for a short flight, possibly including the areas of Lucky Boy Pass and Walker Lane. At one point, it was suggested that he might have been out scouting for potential sites to conduct a planned land speed run. A Federal Aviation Administration spokesperson noted that Fawcett apparently did not file a flight plan and was not required to do so. So that's even like, why wouldn't you have your ELT watch? Why wouldn't you have a flight plan? Because at least then they could locate you.
'Cause he probably thought like, "Oh, I've done this before a million
Hmm.
times. Nothing's gonna happen. It's just a
It's like a routine flight.
routine flight." Yep.
Yeah, yep, that's how it always happens.
And that's how it always happens, exactly.
Yep. So on the second day, a Civil Air Patrol aircraft searched but could find no trace of the wreckage after initiating a complex and expanding search of what later evolved into a nearly 20,000 square mile area.
Wow.
of some of the most rugged terrain in North America. This is a dangerous place to even search. On September 12th, survival experts speculated that Fawcett was he most likely died.
Mhm.
On October 2nd, 2007, a civil air patrol announced that it called off the search operation. So it was almost like a month later. It was later noted that the search was the largest and most complex peacetime search for an individual in U.S. history. But yeah,
And they
so this
never found the plane?
so we'll get to that.
Okay.
But at this time point, no, they didn't. So yeah, so they searched for a month and they covered so much land, so much air, they couldn't find him. So on September 29th, 2008, so about a year and a month later, a hiker found 3 crumpled identification cards in the eastern Sierra Nevada in California, about 65 miles south of Fawcett's takeoff site. So this happened very quickly into his flight. The items were confirmed to be belonging to Fawcett and included an FAA issued card, which is the Federal Aviation Administration card,
Hmm.
his Soaring Society of American membership card, and $1,005 in cash. Which is interesting that he brought that much cash with
But
him.
if he's rich, I guess, like, maybe you just
Like,
don't think about it, you're just like, "Meh, it's
that's
like
true. It's
100
like
bucks."
just pocket money.
It's 100 bucks to him. To
It's
us,
not
we're like,
nice.
"Woo!"
Like, ooh, I can get a new Roomba.
Yeah, I'm like, "Ooh, a new Roomba.
Yep.
Ooh, groceries."
Oh yes,
Have you seen
groceries
how
for a
much
few
eggs
months
are right now?
because the bird flu.
Yeah, the bird flu. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I tried to go to Walmart, like, I just noticed I didn't need eggs when I went there, but I noticed, I was like, "Where are eggs?" There's none, because they
There's
recalled all
none.
of them.
Yep.
Like, people bought them or they recalled them.
Mhm.
It's kinda scary, because eggs are a major cheap food source.
Oh, yeah, Quick Trip, you
So,
can get them for 99¢.
you still can, or
I
they
don't think so
oh,
anymore,
okay.
honestly. I haven't checked in since before COVID, so I doubt they're
Oh,
99
really?
cents.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay,
Oh
so
boy.
on October 1st, late in the day, air search teams spotted the wreckage on the ground at an elevation of 10,100 feet, about 750 yards where the personal items had been found, so where the crumpled up cards had been found.
'Kay.
Later that evening, the teams confirmed the identification of the tail number of Fawcett's plane, so they found it a
It
year
was his.
later.
Alright.
Yep.
It is funny that, like, all these hikers are finding I mean, it's not funny, but it's,
It's
like,
interesting.
it's interesting.
I think
Why
too.
can't the planes find it?
Yeah, I guess too, like if you're flying, if something's covering it, maybe, or if you're just not looking, because you're going fast in a plane, right? It's not like you're just like walking. Like if you're hiking, you can see things a lot easier. Because in a
Mhm.
plane, you're going, I don't know, like 100 miles or whatever.
I don't
So
know,
if
yeah.
you're higher up, you might not catch everything. But yeah, it is interesting that hikers find all this stuff,
Mhm.
or Boy Scouts. So on October 29th, search teams recovered 2 large human bones that they suspected might belong to Fawcett. These bones were found a half a mile east of the crash site. Tennis shoes with animal bite marks in them were also recovered.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's gross. So then on November 3rd, California police coroners said that DNA profiling of the 2 bones by California Department of Justice Forensics confirmed that it was a match to Fawcett's DNA. And
Mhm.
then County Sheriff John Anderson said Fawcett would have died on impact in such a crash, and that it's not unusual for animals to drag remains away, which,
Okay, that's why his body was half a mile away from the crash site.
yeah. I mean, like,
Okay.
they're wild animals. Yeah, it
They
makes
need food
sense.
too, yep.
Yep, which is sad, but yeah, it makes
Mhm.
sense. So that's why the shoes were so far away.
Mhm.
So yeah, so they did find him, but sadly,
He's dead.
yeah, yep. So now I'm gonna get into like the most explained. This is the most reasonable explanation we have for why all these planes go down, right?
In
So
the Nevada Triangle.
yes, yep.
Okay.
So while flying through the tall, beautiful peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains, it can be an amazing experience as a pilot. Like beautiful scenery.
Scenery, yeah.
Mhm. However, navigating through them safely can be rather tricky. Pop up storm systems, heavy turbulence, and a varied terrain are all challenges to be reckoned with.
Ooh.
And it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that at least some of the long lost pilots, especially those lacking mountain flying experience, became overwhelmed or disoriented, sadly, with fatal results. So, one of the things that they talk about most is a phenomenon called mountain waves. So, mountain
Mountain
waves
waves.
So mountain waves are fast-moving winds off nearby Pacific Ocean. A pilot encountering this phenomenon may go from a straight and level flight to essentially riding an invisible up and down or just down roller coaster. It's like it will all of a sudden hit your plane and you can't stop it. It just is like a
Jeez.
wave. Yeah. So the downdrafts produced by mountain waves are frequently strong and forceful, posing an extreme hazard to pilots. Hundreds of feet can quickly be lost, and some mountain waves and lee winds are strong enough to overpower the ability of a light plane to keep from losing control and crashing into the ground. It's like a hobby plane.
Mhm.
They're more likely to crash. Because of this, pilots are encouraged to maintain high enough altitudes above terrain to provide a buffer in the event of a downdraft in case like they hit one of these mountain waves. Even on some clear weather days in some Sierra Nevada locations, sometimes they're unflyable because even
Mhm.
though it looks clear and nice, these waves can come out of nowhere
Yeah,
and drag you
scary.
down.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
Take you by surprise.
So some other things too with the Nevada Triangle. There's three national parks located in this area, and the one that's most covered, that's like pretty much all encompassed by this triangle, is Yosemite.
Pretty.
Yeah. So while there have been thousands of planes that have disappeared, there's also been hundreds of people that have gone missing while visiting the national parks in the area.
Ugh.
So, and by far the most dangerous is Yosemite. So, all right. So, former police officer turned author David Paulides has spent the last 9 years scoring through about 20,000 missing persons files.
Just in
This is
Yosemite?
no, so this is throughout the whole US. So
Okay, I
this
was
might be
what
another
in the
podcast.
heck?
Yeah, no, this,
I'm never
this
going there then.
yeah,
It's on
exactly,
my
yeah.
list, but I'm never going there.
It's my forbidden
20,000.
list.
Oh my god.
20,000. This might be like, so might spiral into a different podcast too, but there's a
Ooh.
weird correlation between like national parks and like cave systems with missing persons. So yeah, this is kind of going into that. So this kind of gets out of the Nevada area, but it still pertains to it. So based on a very specific criteria, Paulides has whittled down the cases to about 1,200 seemingly inexplicable mysteries, people who vanish with unusual circumstances.
Mhm.
So there's some stories that I've heard from like different national parks. Some were like kids. There's one I heard today that was like this dad was playing hide and go seek with his kid, and he watched his kid walk behind a tree. He was playing with like a couple other kids from a different family and like his kid. And he watched his son go behind a tree, and he was like finding them, and he was like, "Okay, everyone, come out," and they all did, but the one kid. And basically, what they said, he was like he wasn't worried at first because he saw him go behind this tree. Well, they couldn't find him, and they never did. They called the rangers and everything, and they could never find the poor kid.
It's nightmare fuel
Oh yeah,
for any parent. Oh my god.
oh yeah. And then apparently they talked to like some of the close by the other campers, other campsites. Apparently one couple saw a big like creature, like kind of like man but hairy, carrying something over his back. So they think they might have seen the kid.
Bigfoot.
Yep. So that's what they're kind of hinting at. Is like they
Bigfoot
think,
stole a little boy? Is that
yeah,
what you Bigfoot's
yeah.
just a
Well,
kidnapper
yeah.
with, like, a
Well,
van
but
full of candy? Is that what you're telling
oh,
me?
he doesn't have a van, but he'll pick him up
No, he has a
because
van.
he's
He's like a
okay.
bassist. He's like a bass guitar. He's a bassist for a Dave Matthews cover band, like, in some little town outside of
Yeah.
California.
Oh man. Well, too with like a lot of these missing person cases, and with this kid's case,
Mhm.
they took dogs out and stuff. And they couldn't find his scent. Like it
That's
just
scary.
vanished
Just
behind this
vanished.
tree.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Yep.
like it. Not going there.
Nope. 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 So in Paulides, Paulides has written books called Missing 411, and I think they're kind of like in different areas. Each book is like in a different area.
Okay.
But he has identified dozens of clusters, many of them in national parks or forests, where the number of people missing is way out of the ordinary. So, three of those clusters exist within the Nevada Triangle. Yay! Including at the top of the list, Yosemite National Park. This is a quote from Paulides. There's no concrete one item that can say that what is causing that. And because of no tracks, no scent trail, no witnesses, we've had people say it's got to be UFOs. It's got to be reptilians, Bigfoot, it's got to be this. In reality, I don't think you can say it's just one thing. So people are basically telling him that there's no tracks, no scent, no dogs can pick up scent. People think it's supernatural. So often the missing people vanish into thin air while with other hikers. Dogs are unable to pick up any scent. There are no tracks. Small children who vanish are found a day later, many miles away, like farther away than a small child can go by themselves.
It's
Over,
Bigfoot.
yeah, Bigfoot just picking up the kids and dropping
Mhm.
them off random
Mhm.
places. Human abductions and animal attacks are ruled out, at least for some of these cases. For years, Paulides requested lists of missing people from the National Park Service, but was told they don't keep any such list, which is odd, right?
Why?
Exactly, because
Why?
it's a national park. You'd think you'd have some sort of database, be like,
Yeah,
these people, they're missing. Like, this is where they were last seen. Like, they gotta have something.
something. That seems really irresponsible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yo. So it says more recently, Yosemite officials have opened up, and
Good.
I think they might have been covering up some of the things that they hadn't
Like
looked into
Bigfoot
these cases.
stealing kids
Bigfoot, dang it, Bigfoot!
and bringing them to his van full of candy. And then what if he like no, seriously, like let's go back to the scenario where Bigfoot is the bass
Okay,
guitar player for the Dave Matthews cover band in a little
okay.
town in California. And
Hmm.
he like brings the kids to the shows so that they have an audience to play for. Like he
Oh,
could be doing that.
just feed them candy for the rest of their life.
Uh-huh. No, but then
Oh,
he like brings them back and he's like, "Oh, I'll just put you like miles away from where I found, you know."
you're approximately here. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So, this is a quote from Scott Giedman, who is a Yosemite National Park Ranger. He says, "It might be 10 years later you find a shoe or a piece of clothing." So, yeah, again, these places are huge. So, I mean, you can kind of see where some error can go into it. But if you know exactly where this person was when they disappeared,
Yeah, like behind the tree is really
you'd think you'd
creepy.
find something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Paulides has investigated cases closer to home, like around where he is, including the 1966 disappearance of 6-year-old Larry Jeffrey of Henderson, who vanished with his family on Mount Charleston, and a 1977 case of a missing woman near Tonopah. Is that how you say it? Tonopah? I think it's
I have no
Tonopah.
idea. I'm gonna assume. Don't
Okay.
say that.
So some have tried to link the mystery to the Area 51 military base, but that facility is far to the east of the triangle's boundaries. But like it's still within it. So I mean, there's still a lot of land part of like in Area 51 that's in the triangle as well. So while speaking to a national conference of search and rescue experts, Pilates was addressed by a pair of state troopers. Quote, they said, "Dave, you're talking about things that nobody in this room wants to talk about. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody here faces it, but nobody wants to talk about it."
And it's the Bigfoot that plays the bass guitar for the Dave Matthews cover band.
Bigfoot. Yes.
What is it then? What was the rest of that quote? What's the thing that no one wants to talk about?
Well, they didn't. That's all they said because it's a. They basically said, "Don't look into it. It's things we can't
It's
explain."
Bigfoot. It's a hipster Bigfoot that plays the
It's
bass.
so yeah. So basically, when like people, it's kind of like solidifies it, right? That there is something going on, but
Mhm.
in order to look into it, you're going to be looking into things that people don't want you to look into. So you're putting yourself in danger. You're putting other people in danger. And
Your
it's
family, friends.
yep, exactly. Yeah. So it's sometimes better to be don't look into it,
Mhm.
basically. But there is a surprising correlation. There is a couple maps. I'll leave a link, I think, to some of these images. Otherwise, I'll eventually have them up on our Instagram at Foolish Wanderers Podcast. But there is like a correlation between missing people cases and major cave systems, along with also notable Bigfoot sightings. So cave systems and Bigfoot have a correlation, and that correlates with missing people. So I don't know, but to me that kind of makes sense. Inca, Bigfoot.
No, a box randomly
Oh.
fell in the closet here. It's kind of creepy.
Bigfoot. See, don't
Bigfoot.
talk about me. So yeah, do you think it's unpredictable wind patterns that cause pilots to crash? Is it being abducted by Bigfoot and UFOs? Is it Area 51? What do you think?
I think the listeners and you know what I think.
Bigfoot and a rock cover band.
Yep, it's Bigfoot
Mhm.
and the Dave Matthews cover band.
This is gonna be a T-shirt eventually, I
Oh
swear, or a
yeah.
sticker.
Mhm.
That's gonna be.
Yep. Mhm.
And there are some other triangles too. So a couple other well-known triangles, like geographical triangles. These might be for future podcasts because I won't get into them because this podcast is long enough already.
Ooh,
Yeah, but this is a long one. But there's also the Dragons Triangle and
that
the
sounds
it
awesome.
sounds cool, yeah, and the Alaska Triangle, which is kind of scary too. So a very haunted.
The Last Frontier, Alaska.
Yeah. So some of the resources that I have for this podcast are from planeandpilotmag.com, 8newsnow.com, Wikipedia, stevefawcett.com, britannica.com, top10s.net, beneathhauntedwaters.com, abc7.com, and MC and independentnews.com.
Ooh, lots of good
Yeah.
sources.
Thanks, yeah.
That
I
was a
tried
good
to get
episode.
some decent information.
A lot of information.
Yeah.
Well, that was neat. I had no idea that the Nevada Triangle had all those planes
Yeah,
disappear
it's
and
scarier than the
people.
Bermuda.
That's a lot scarier. And it's in our backyard. It's great.
It's fun times.
It's
Yes.
fun times. Oh man. Oh, I have one little more tidbit
Okay.
issue
Yes.
that I have that I wrote
Okay.
down that I noticed this week.
Okay.
So, I've been noticing lately that I've been getting a lot of long tags on clothes that I've been
Mm,
buying. So, like,
okay.
on more, like, well-known brands like Levi's or, like, Calvin Klein, just
Mhm.
those 2 specifically that I've been having issues with. I have been having long-ass tags, like, as long as a CVS pharmacy receipt. Like, that long, Katrina. Like, I got a shirt from Levi's, and the I have like it's like a CVS pharmacy receipt underneath the shirt.
Oh, it's like the washing information?
Yeah, it is so long.
That's
It's like a
weird.
book. It's a biography. And then I got Calvin Klein underwear, and it was such a long, ridiculous tag. It looked like a tail coming out of my ass.
And those don't detach, do they? We get to like rip
No,
them out.
I had to cut it, and then I cut a hole in them, and Lord
Oh
knows those were not
no.
like $5 underwear. Yeah, so I
Why
have
didn't
an
you
issue.
why
I
don't you just
have
get
an
like a
issue.
seam ripper and like rip out the seam and then sew it
There's
back
a
up?
what?
A seam ripper. That's where you just like take out like it's like a little tool that lets you cut the thread. So then you just like take the thread out and you can like quick stitch it back together after you take out the tag.
Send me this over Snapchat.
I will.
I had no idea that. Why is it that I always like I'm just like, who does it? Why couldn't I? And like I messed it up, and then you're like, why wouldn't you just use this
I'm sorry.
obscure tool that Kendra does not know about?
I mean, I use it all the time for. I used to sew a lot in college
Oh
for like
Lord!
projects,
Oh yeah, for
so it makes it
projects. Mhm.
so easy.
I need
Yeah,
a seam ripper now, but
I'll give you one for your wedding.
thank
I'll
you.
get you a seam
But
ripper.
I have and a toaster. Somebody get
Yes,
me a
and a
toaster
toaster.
for the love of God.
I'll get you a toaster, a gluten-free toaster.
I have no. Just give me a toaster. It's no issue. I'm not like one of those people that if like it touches the bread, I'm like gonna,
But
die.
there's buttons that help like I think it cooks it so
I'm
it
not a
doesn't burn.
what am I, the Queen of England? No, you don't have to give me that. Just give me a regular toaster.
Okay.
Mhm. I'm not the Queen of Sheba. I don't need anything fancy. Just give me a toaster.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I've got a beef with these companies that are giving me these long ass tags.
That is interesting. I guess I haven't bought a lot of new clothes recently either, so
I've
I haven't
been
noticed
going
it, but
through the clothes and saying I hate you when I get rid of it.
yeah, I've gone through a purge too recently. I just
It
got
feels
rid of like a lot
good.
of stuff. It kind of does, yeah.
It's good. Out with the old, in with the new. In
I'll
with the
send you
new long ass tags
that you don't want.
that I don't want.
Mhm. I'll send you a link to a seam ripper.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's all I had.
Did we solve your issue?
Yes, we did now. Thank you. I thought maybe one of the listeners was like just was like in charge of the tags maybe at one of these two companies, and they're like,
This
"Oh,
was
that is an issue. I'll get rid of it." But Katrina just solved it for me. So you keep making your long ass tags. I got a solution now, people.
I mean, this way it makes it easier for you.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm gonna buy it. Thank you, Amazon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, Wanderers. Thank you so much for listening to another Foolish Wanderers podcast. We hope you enjoyed this kind of a spookier episode. If you guys have any suggestions for future episodes, feel free to email us at fwplisteners@gmail.com and check out some companion images for our episodes at Foolish Wanderers Podcast on Instagram.
And new episodes of the FWP are out every single Wednesday from wherever you get your podcast from. And if you like this episode and want to help us out, you can leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.